Resorting to Obstruction. A short story by Gail Hulnick. Copyright 2021. Adam Turner had passed this house on every one of the 6 days he had been in Barcelona. At first he'd just been intrigued by the columns in front that imitated the form and structure of a tree. Then on the second day, on his way back to the hotel after the architecture workshop he had come to attend, he noticed the unusual colors used on the portico. On the third, he saw the contrast of curves and lines. All week he had been pacing the city for hours, looking at Gaudi's buildings, trying to see and memorize them all. Antoni Gaudí, our genius architect who designed and guided the building of Barcelona's third cathedral about 100 years ago, Mr. Turner was not the first who had come to the city to study these masterpieces, nor would he be the last. But he might be the most passionate. That was what brought him to my courtroom. He was to be punished for his passion. That sunny day in September, when he first encountered the house on Plaza Nova, he stood there for many hours. The columns, the swollen orbs atop those columns like a child's lollipop on top of a stick. And the colors. Oh, the colors. Mr. Turner could not resist the urge to stare and marvel at this incredible house, even though it was not on the list. He stopped for 6 hours that first day, the neighbors said, and the next day he was back. This time he had come with a sketch pad, charcoals, and a little folding chair. He set himself up just to the left of the front door, balanced the pad on his knee, and drew for a few hours. Then he went to the back of the house. Hours later, he came around to the front once again, just at the moment when a city worker arrived with a hammer and a sign on a stick. Demolition. The house was to be demolished a week from Tuesday. All of the necessary procedures had been followed, and the owner had the proper permissions. A Mr. Winther from Sweden had purchased the house despite being offended by what he called a garish and extravagant design. He wanted it for the value of the land, and he had plans to replace it with a modern building that would be an improvement to the district. It was past repair and renovation. It was to be torn down. That was what had upset Mr. Turner and propelled him to my courtroom, to become one of my last cases before retirement. "What are you doing?" he had shouted at the worker, who did not understand a word this agitated man was barking at him. "Why did you shout?" I asked, wondering if this American might start shouting at me too. He hung his head. "Your Honor, I know that I should not have lost my temper, and I should not have tried to take the sign." "Or his hammer," I added, "or pushed him toward his truck, while you waved your arms about like a lunatic. The neighbor, Senora Cortina, saw it all and has already told us how it was." "But it is a house designed by Gaudí." I looked more closely at the man. He was medium height, healthy, carefully dressed in a black sweater, black suit jacket, and black pants, but with a pair of elderly shoes that signaled creativity distracting him from discipline. "Are you an architect?" I asked him. "Yes, and this house is an unknown, a previously unknown masterpiece. Think of a Van Gogh sketch. Would you use that for kindling or let someone wrap the fish in it?" "Maybe if I didn't like Van Gogh or didn't recognize it. Either way, if the sketch belonged to me, I could do with it as I wished." "That is an arrogant attitude," Mr. Turner commented, with the tone of a man used to getting the last word. The American was released after he made his promise to stay away from Plaza Nueva, and after his wife wired his bail money, as she called it, from their home in a place called Delaware. She also sent me a letter by email asking me to release him, describing his accomplishments and his connections, and assuring me that he was a good and worthwhile man. Oh, that all wives would be so loyal and so dedicated. The law led me to allow for his release anyway, so there was no saying whether her communication had an effect. We did not take any money, and I myself pledged to her that her credit card number had been erased from our system. It would have been better if she had sent the money to her husband and urged him to use it, to buy a plane ticket to move on to another city, and to direct his fervor elsewhere, perhaps to an obsession with an actress or a flamenco dancer. Ha! Wives are seldom that understanding. Despite my suggestion that he find another interest or even get on a flight home immediately, Mr. Turner lost little time in returning to the scene of the crime, although he would, and did, argue with me strenuously that the real crime was the destruction of such an important building. The next day, the house looked exactly as it had earlier, but for three important differences. The sign was secured in place in cement, a video camera had been directed at it, and a man was lying on the sidewalk near the house, curled up in a sleeping bag. "Who are you, and what do you want?" the man said to Mr. Turner. "I'd ask you the same question." "Are you police?" "Far from it," Mr. Turner said. "I'm just somebody who appreciates this house and is sick to see it slated for demolition." The other man got to his feet and held out a hand. "I am Dante Lopez. I also appreciate this house and don't want it demolished. I think it is an undiscovered, gaudy masterpiece." As you can imagine, this energized Mr. Turner, and in no time the two were accomplices. The neighbors were watching when the two men walked around the building 3 times, shook hands, and then together lay down in front of the equipment. They were trying to preserve what they believed to be an architectural treasure, I suppose, but what about private property? Mr. Turner and Senor Lopez were not willing to concede defeat, and so they ignored the shouts of the bulldozer operators, the screams of the neighbors, the barking of the police dogs, and the lectures of the police officers. They were put into handcuffs and spent the night as guests of our community. On the next morning, we faced each other once again across the bench. Both Mr. Turner and Senor Lopez were accompanied by their lawyers, and both looked a long way from being the reputable professionals they were in their regular lives. "It cannot be demolished." I watched Mr. Turner expostulating to his attorney, and it seemed as if these legal repercussions were making him more, not less fervent than before. This time I allowed the retaining of the money his wife sent for his bail. I actually gave him a 2-for-1 because I released his Spanish friend as well, after giving them a speech about the evils that awaited them if they continued on this antisocial path. "I do not see why I should be punished for helping a Spanish city guard its treasures," he muttered as his lawyer tried to hush him up. He and Senor Lopez were somewhat chastened by their latest experience in the Barcelona jail. I think the powers that be were becoming a little more annoyed and a little less entertained by this pair, and so they pulled back the curtain on what real life would be like, day after day, inside the jail. Mr. Turner and Senor Lopez decided not to return to Plaza Nueva. Instead, they made their way to Alhambra Street, to a beautiful resort, where it was time for early evening tapas in the bar. "I know this hotel. It is a favorite among my son's friends for special celebration dinners. The library lounge is fitted with dramatic floor-to-ceiling shelves of a glorious red wood. I do not know the exact type, but it is used throughout the hotel. The lobby has the same beautiful wood, with carvings and crown moldings on ceilings that soar several stories above the heads of the arriving guests. It is all dedicated to the history of trade in Barcelona. The restaurant is decorated in a combination of classical and modern pieces. The food is exceptional, the wine well chosen. The patio is designed to capture soothing breezes on even the hottest days of the year. All in all, it is a very luxurious place, one that I could only afford to appreciate in person on very special occasions. Mr. Turner and Senor Lopez were not staying at this hotel. They went there to try to meet Mr. Winther of Stockholm, the owner of the house, and it was a goal that they achieved. He came down to the bar at their request, and in a matter of moments, voices were raised, despite Mr. Winther's best efforts to maintain order. "How can you demolish a work of art?" Senor Lopez demanded. "No one thinks it is art but you." The house's owner had lost his earlier calm, according to witnesses, and was sitting on the edge of his armchair. "It is a commercial property that has only land value. Value to me. I own it." "It never should have been sold to you," growled Senor Lopez. "You, an outsider. No city's buildings should be sold to anyone not born there." "Really, that is what he said," I heard from witnesses. "A rather extreme point of view. Let us hope he never achieves any sort of position of power. It is unlikely anyways, since he spent his youth making drawings and now is spending his middle age lying down in front of buildings. We will get an expert, Mr. Turner said, someone who can demonstrate the importance of this building to the world community, beyond the boundaries of Barcelona, of Spain, or of Europe, for that matter. Go ahead, Mr. Winther said. It won't change a thing. This is the point where it became ugly. Señor Lopez was about to jump upon Mr. Winther, but Mr. Turner restrained him, whereupon Señor Lopez lost his earlier affinity for Mr. Turner and jumped on him. Whereupon Mr. Winther came to Mr. Turner's rescue, whereupon Mr. Turner became Mr. Winther's friend and tried to persuade Señor Lopez that their quest was impossible, whereupon Señor Lopez shouted that all quests are impossible, they are supposed to be impossible, whereupon police were called by the hotel and the three were back in my court for creating a public disturbance. I sent them off to regain their composure in the cells. I was just pondering how much patience I could summon if I had to see these men in my courtroom on a regular basis, when I was advised of a change in the situation. While Mr. Turner had been experiencing police arrests and court appearances, Mr. Turner's wife apparently decided she would rather they pay for an expensive hobby than jail terms. She had her people contact Mr. Winther, who by this time was exhausted by Barcelona and ready to leave. She made the right offer and bought the house before there was time for a single wall to come down. Mr. Winther was happy to be rid of it. Last week I saw Mr. Turner and Señor Lopez having coffee at a small cafe across the street from Gaudi's magnificent Sagrada Familia. They had unrolled blueprints on the table in front of them and seemed to be immersed in studying them. I have heard that they have plans to make some renovations to improve the house somewhat. They will have to deal with the Heritage Preservation Committee now. That building has been designated. And in my new position as head of that committee, I will have to deal with them again. Let's see his wife try to help him now. That was Resorting to Obstruction, a short story by Gail Hulnick, copyright 2021.